Decaying industrial sites, abandoned commercial lots, brownfields. These sore sites scar the face of every city and community nationwide. But through inventive partnerships and innovative action plans, these sites can be reinvented, redesigned, repurposed, and you guessed it, recycled.
I think you've got a good property line here.
Western North Carolina's Land of Sky Regional Council put this strategy to the test, literally, by creating a Recycle This Site design competition for architecture, landscape, and planning students.
I looked at this property for 6 or 7 years before I finally moved on. That was because I heard about the Brownfields program, and I was concerned about the liability of what might be underground, the unknowns.
This competition is the first of its type in the country where a city has worked with a site owner to solicit the input of students in the design process for a green recycling of a site.
There's some kind of connection for me that happens between my brain and paper when I'm drawing and sketching, and for me that really helps me design. With this design, I actually went to Asheville and talk to local residents and local artists, because if I'm designing a place for them, I want to find out what they want and what their needs are and what's important to them. This community is really going places. It's a community on the rise, and from that I had this idea of this almost a sun type of spot, and so from that I kind of drew what I saw in my head, this burning central point and this sun kind of radiating out of it.
I think the results of this competition are going to be very helpful around the country in guiding brownfield site reuse.
Communities don't have the ability to keep growing out. They cannot look at sprawl anymore as a development tool. Communities can't afford to go out and build new roads. They can't afford to invest in new infrastructure projects that contribute to sprawl. So why would you not take a site that is already in your community, that has roads, that has some utilities, that might have some challenges in terms of development, whether it's a brownfield site, whether it's on a river, whether you've got stormwater issues to deal with. Why not tackle those issues and preserve your land?
I think for other people who own property or want to develop property like this that has any kind of issues at all, I think a process where you invite a series of students or a group of people, whatever, whether they're students or whether they're professionals already, to come in and provide answers. I think it's a great way to start the development process.
So at least we have topo lines to work with.
Over the course of a semester, participants submitted designs to repurpose a 13-acre site along the French Broad River in Asheville, North Carolina. The site's been labeled a brownfield, meaning it was abandoned or underutilized due to contamination, real or perceived. Contending with such an issue can be daunting, and that's where partner support becomes essential. Students overcame the project hardships and created truly viable designs thanks to the guidance and technical support of state and local government regulators, environmentalists, and green technology experts.
Students were alerted to the fact that there was going to be a competition, and they were invited to come to a site visit where they toured the site, sort of picked up the parameters and got the specifics and the details and sort of the criteria that was to guide their design.
We dealt with flood issues, we dealt with the environmental issues, we dealt with the fact that we've got a bunch of buildings on the site, we've got a river on one side of the property, we've got railroad tracks on the other. We've got a lot of things going on that aren't necessarily easy to deal with.
I envisioned a central public space and layers of uses that removed visitors from the contaminated soil. The underground hydrology suggested a sweeping gesture toward the river.
In my opinion, universities, architecture schools, design schools, planning schools represent a great untapped resource that communities can look to as they start to think about how they're going to reuse their properties, especially in small towns that really don't have the resources to hire fancy firms to come out and do assessments and design reviews. In the case of students, you've got people eager to put what they've just learned into practice, and they come up with some very, very good, credible designs.
And then how they show that the parking would be on your lower level, so that would be what's below the 100-year flood line.
Brownfields is all about partnerships, and I think what we're seeing here in the Land to Sky region is potentially a very potent, replicable, new type of partnership.
The longer we worked on the project, the more people we brought in. We brought in the city, we brought in the state, we brought in the federal government, we brought in the colleges, we brought in obviously the developer.
You can use the student competition model as a tool to address any number of land planning issues.
So I'd rather see something dense downtown or here at the river or something like that than I would somebody scrape 100 acres on the side of a mountain for 50 houses.
You could also consider alternative energy and low-impact building design.
Solar, wind power, this could be a net zero series of buildings, that'd be great.
Hold a competition in your own community, and you'll discover the power to not only transform the existing structural landscape, but the landscape of the community itself.
Pulling all the partners together can take some time, but it's worth it.
And anyone who owns a piece of property or any developer who's looking at a piece of property can utilize these same basic ideas.
We've given you some ideas on what you need to do to bring people in to participate in this project, and I think you can do it. I think anybody can do this.
We have this land, no one's using it. It's post-industrial, it had been used, and now we can recycle it and give it a new use.
The site itself is an illustration of recycling. We're taking old, beat up property and we're reworking that and recycling that to be something nice and vibrant and wonderful for the community. I really want this design to be something unique and special for the community of Asheville that will inspire them to go out and create something unique to themselves that they can share with other people. And that's what I'm hoping this design will enable them to do.